Hi, this is Mrs. Craig, and today we're going to be focusing on fraction word problems with addition. Whenever we are working with word problems, we always need to figure out what is the problem asking me to do and what operation or operations do I need to use in order to solve the problem. In this particular case, we're only solving a one-step problem because we really want to focus on what are the key words that I need to know when I'm adding fractions. So to begin with, I want to kind of walk through what are keywords for signifying or signaling that I'm going to add. And usually you're going to find words that mean something similar or are these exact words. So you'll see the word total, or you might see in all, or even the word all together. For any problem, that means I have a part and a part and I need to put it together as my whole. And that will come up again as we talk through solving the problem. So the first thing that we're going to do now is we're going to read through the problem. And as I read through the problem, you're going to notice that I actually circle keywords and numbers as I'm reading through because it actually helps my brain to put it all together as I'm reading it, to understand what operation I'm going to need to do. And then if I need to reread it again, I can, but my brain has a better chance of being able to put it all together because I was kind of piecing it together as I was reading the problem. This problem begins like this. While gardening, Jan spent 1 3/4 hours planting and 2 1/8 hours trimming. What was the total hours worked by Jan in her garden? Another way that really helps my brain, and a great way to think about it, is if I have a part plus another part, that equals my whole. So if I always think of part, whole, part plus a part equals a whole, and we can apply that to multiplication as well. A part times a part equals a whole. That means if I have two parts or two pieces and I put them together, that's going to equal my whole. That helps me to know what operation I'm doing. In the same regard, if I have the whole and I have one of the parts and I need to find the other part, it's whole minus a part equals a part as well. So now that I kind of have that in the back of my mind, I suggest you kind of keep that as, kind of a go-to reminder. Now I'm going to use that to actually solve my problem. So I know that I see the word in total and all, and I'm going to be adding my fractions together. So now is the easy part. You all have had practice with adding fractions at this point. So I'm going to change my color and I'm going to go back to black here and I'm going to add. So I'm going to take my first number, 1 3/4, and I'm going to add to it 2 1/8. You always want to make sure that you put the operation so that you don't forget. So right away, I want to remember that I'm doing addition. I'm going to put it here. Sometimes when you start to just write numbers, and if you don't have an order or organization to your work, you may forget and throw in an operation that isn't the incorrect one. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a common denominator because I'm adding fractions. And I think of my least common multiple between 4 and 8. And my least common multiple in this case is 8. So I need to find a common denominator by multiplying 3/4 by the whole 2/2. And my new number equivalent number, mixed number, is 3. And 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So it's 1 and I'm actually going to rewrite my 1 here since that line's going through it. So it's 1 6/8. And my denominator is already 8 here, so I do not need to do anything. I just need to rewrite it, 2 1/8. Now I'm going to add. 6 plus 1 is 7, so I have 7/8. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3/8. 3 and 7/8. So then I actually go back to my problem because one thing that I always say, if there are words in the problem, you need words in your answer or your answer is not complete. So I need to figure out 3 7/8 what? right? So I go back and I reread to make sure I know what my units are. So while gardening, Jan spent 1 3/4 hours. Okay, so 3 7/8 hours. Great habit to always circle or box your answer so that your teacher does not have to guess where your answer is when you're doing it by hand. Now it is your turn. The next problem coming up is going to be blank for you. You're going to solve the problem on your own. Hit pause to solve, and then I will come back and I will solve it with you. Now we are ready to solve the problem together. Matthew ran. Again, you're going to see me do my keywords and numbers. I'm going to use green this time. All right, Matthew ran 1/6 of a mile, then he took a break before running another 3/4 mile. Ran 1/6 of a mile, he took a break before running another 3/4 of a mile. So I know one part is 1/6, and I know the other part is 3/4. How far did Matthew run in all? Sometimes I actually like to try or begin to write the problem as I am reading it, just to kind of piece together how my brain is thinking about it. You can choose to circle your keywords and numbers as you're reading them, or you can wait until you're finished and then solve it. So I'm actually going to erase so I can give myself a little more room to actually solve the problem. And I'm going to rewrite it here. So I do want to switch back to blue. My eyes like the blue a little bit better. Can't do blue right now, so we're going to go back to black. Here we go. So I have 1/6 and 3/4. And I'm going to add them. I always want to remember the operation that I am choosing to do. First thing I need to find is a common denominator, and I do that by thinking of the least common multiple between 4 and 6. The least common multiple between the two is 12. So 6 times what gives me 12? Well, 6 times 2 is 12. So whatever I do to the denominator, I need to do to the numerator. So then I end up with 2/12. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And then to get my common denominator here, 4, I say to myself, 4 times what is 12? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. Again, whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. And then I multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. And then I add 9 plus 2 is 11 twelfths. I go back and I say to myself, well, 11 twelfths what? I go back and I look for the words that I need to include in my answer, the units. And in this case, it's of a mile. So 11 twelfths, I'm going to actually write of a mile. Circle or box my keywords and numbers, box my answer. And there it is.